welcome back to a new location. Pete Buttigieg, he's gonna be hanging out here throughout this video, mostly just because I forgot to take him off the desktop. He's just gonna sit there quietly and mind his own business. New place tour. So, as you may know, lots of creators, they have the soundproofing foam on the walls behind them whenever they talk about whatever stupid thing that they gotta talk about. I am sort of subversive, and it is of sort of just in line with that nature. I just have it in a little pile. Here I have 2 monitors and a whiteboard. Tour over. Earlier this week I was browsing through Amazon and I was looking at Game of Thrones stuff, and I saw there are some illustrated versions of the books. They're hardcover illustrated versions, so I got pictures every once in a while. And I was like, okay, cool. I just want to see some of the pictures, so I was like looking at the reviews, and I got to the 3rd book, which is A Storm of Swords, and I saw the reviews, and they're all very bad. And whenever I looked at what they had to say, and I looked at the pictures of the art, I realized that they're just sort of dumb and wrong. They're just fucking stupid and have bad opinions, and really somebody should put them in their place. Somebody should really, I'm not saying I would do it, but I'm saying if you are one of my viewers and you know one of these people, that you should probably violently attack them. I don't know if that's illegal to say. A Storm of Swords, the illustrated edition. The illustrated edition? Again, it says the illustrated edition twice in the title. Okay. Connor B fucking stupid is what Connor B. Great story, dropping quality of illustration. So let's look at these illustrations real quick. Let's see what these terrible, awful looking illustrations look like. Wow, look at how terrible that looks. That looks so bad. Man, that looks terrible, doesn't it, guys? Doesn't that look terrible? Man, if I saw that in person, I'd probably throw up. Previously purchasing the first 2 books, okay, this person, Connor B not knowing how to talk. Previously purchasing the first 2 books illustrated, this one lacks in quality when it comes to the actual illustrations. See pictures attached. Yeah, I figured that was what the pictures were for. They appear to be drawn and colored by someone not close to the caliber of the folks who did the first 2 illustrated books. When paying top dollar for an illustrated book, I'd expect quite a bit more. Hey, Connor B, top dollar is not $22. This is like a 1,200 page hardcover book. $22 would be how much it would cost if it wasn't illustrated. Michael A. stupid last name. Illustrations, on the other hand, while well executed, are jarringly out of place in the eyes of someone who is a fan of the HBO series. They depict scenes typical of medieval England, with men wearing tights, pointy shoes, and caps with feathers in them. Man, that's so unfitting for this medieval fantasy that they would be dressed like medieval people. They are more appropriate to the pages of a book about Robin Hood and his band of merry men. In my opinion, the artist should have tried either to emulate the style of art in the first 2 volumes of this illustrated series, or the design language of the HBO series. Why? Like, first off, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it. The first 2 books don't have a consistent artistic style at all. There's a bunch of different artists who drew for it. Hey, you know what you can look at if you want to see something that looks like the HBO series? It's the HBO series. You can look at that. Isn't that great? There's probably concept art and shit for that too. Why do you want just the HBO series? What's even the point in having the books illustrated if they're not going to be illustrated in a way that is unique to them? The quality keeps decreasing. In a Game of Thrones Illustrated Edition, the illustrations were marvelous, and you have an illustration for each chapter plus a few scattered in between. In A Clash of Kings, the amount of illustrations dropped by more than 50%, but still in the quality of the illustrations was beautiful. In A Storm of Swords, the illustrations is even less, and the quality is dreadful compared to the previous. In the previous books, they're realistic art, but in A Storm of Swords, they're no more than sketches. I was so disappointed. My man Ali does not know what sketches are, and he doesn't know what fucking good art is. He's just a stupid... I think that they just see that there's lines in it, and they're like, lines? what the heck? There are lines? Somebody, like, it's a drawing and not a painting. The guy who said, like, it's not of the caliber of the people who drew the previous books is dumb and doesn't know anything about, like, what drawing is. This preference of realism, it's like a fantasy book. Like, I don't know, like, why do you need it to look like super realistic? First off, it looks fairly realistic. It just has lines in it. I'm sorry, it has lines in it. And it's drawn by somebody who's really good at composition, like the composition of the art that in here is better than a lot of the compositions in the other books. I mean, not that super complicated or anything. Disappointing imagery. The illustration quality declined greatly from the first two books. It is much more rough. Reminds me of illustrations in a children's book. The colors aren't vivid like they are in the first two. Much more watery and drab. Some of the illustrations in the first two books don't have color at all. I would think they would want consistency throughout the series. They already didn't have that in the first two books. The first two books had multiple artists that had fairly different looking styles scattered throughout. What are you even talking about? So we've looked at a bunch of the reviews. I probably have to cut out some of them because that was probably kind of boring, honestly. I have no clue if anybody's interested in this at all. I think that overall, like, the people, they're like trying to be really big brain art critic people, but they don't really know anything about like how to critique art or anything about the skill that would go into drawing pictures like these, because they're actually super well put together. But they keep talking about how the first two books have fantastic art. So let's look at that fantastic art. Granted, I am going to cherry pick. Like, I'm going to pick pictures that I think look kind of bad. So keep that in mind. This looks very good. It's very good. It's very detailed. It's more detailed than the ones in the other book. I mean, I would say probably. You know, it's just showing one of the White Walkers just showing him, basically. And I don't think that very well conveys the atmosphere of what's going on. At least I don't think so, because this is book one. This picture, this is what's so much better. This looks bad. It's obviously drawn by somebody who's really good at drawing and who knows how to draw people, but like, it doesn't look good. It looks like fan art. I mean, I guess it technically is, but that's what it looks like. It looks like, it looks like it's good for fan art, but like, that's not how people look whenever they sit down, really. Like, that's, like, look at Khal Drogo. I think he's supposed to be looking at Daenerys, but it's like weird. The angle he's at's really weird. Khal Drogo looks janky as hell. Like, he just looks goofy. Daenerys is like 14. That's not a 14-year-old if I've ever seen one. Like, it's a goofy looking picture. Not that the person who made it isn't super good at drawing. This looks really stiff. And that's kind of not even that uncommon of a thing in this book. Again, it looks like somebody who's really good at drawing people realistically, but is kind of bad at posing them and making them look natural. This sort of looks like a CG edit of things. It looks like it has like particle effects over it, and like, I don't know, that stuff always just makes me think of like cheap illustrations in kids books, like a kids book about dinosaurs. You have like a really shitty 3D rendering of like a T-Rex with like cool particle effects on it or something. That's not to say it doesn't take talent or anything, and this is like fine in terms of like how it's composed. And I even think it is kind of good in that it's like an abstraction of the scene, right? Where it doesn't have really the ability to contradict the way that you viewed things. It's because it's vague. Like, it's very detailed, but it's also vague in the way it's shown. So I think that's cool. Finding that sort of balance between things. This picture of Cersei and Jaime, and again, it looks really stiff. Like, that they don't look like they're like naturally posed. And because it's really realistic, like, I don't know, I think whenever something is a little bit less realistic, whenever it takes a little bit more liberties, you're more willing to just be like, yeah, it's like an artistic sort of thing that they're doing. But this just looks weird. It's like a very unnatural pose. It looks like they're posing to have their picture taken. It's kind of almost boring looking. That's like part of it. They're just two people standing there. And the other one, they had all these dynamic page layouts. And those were the pages people were saying looked like shit. The pages people were saying looked like shit looked really dynamic and interesting. And this looks like flat and boring and stiff. And it's funny because these are pictures that are being taken as examples of how good the art is. So the examples from the last book about how the art was really bad are like being like levied against examples of art in this book that's being touted as really good that actually isn't that great. I mean, I'm not even necessarily saying that it's not like, again, it's not bad. It's good. It's really good. But like, there are things that the art in the A Storm of Swords illustrated version does better than the artwork in the previous versions. I guess we can look at a Clash of Kings, but I mean, really, I've already basically made my point. I don't like the way that this looks. Like, I don't know, the show's design looks better. Like, this looks weird and sort of unnatural. It looks like something that would be in like a shitty, edgy, like 90s comic book. Again, it's very flat. Like, it's just in front of a wall. Look at more people that are just standing in front of walls. Thanks for watching. Like, commented, subscribe. If you want to see more kinds of videos like this, I guess you can. I guess you can let me know. Hopefully now that I have a place to record during the day, I will be able to at least get things out weekly, and maybe more, but I don't know about that. I'm not that confident. But we'll see. I hope so.